You ever find yourself having a crush for a complete stranger? I know, it sounds random, but let me give you an example. Let's say you're in the grocery store, or an amusement park, or even on vacation on a cruise ship. And then there's that someone. They catch your eye, and there's a half a chance you won't even talk to them. You didn't even know that this someone existed, but now that you're sharing this space for a short time, you still want to seem impressive, approachable. Or maybe you're the type to try and make yourself cool and mysterious, way more than you actually are. It may be a minute, it may be an hour, it might be weeks on end, but when that time's up, you will most likely never see them again. I'm a regular commuter on the subway and have been for a few years now. When you're 17, living in a big city and can't afford a car, you don't really have much of a choice. Not like the traffic is worth the hassle of paying a couple of hundred a month, along with gas and insurance and oil changes, and whatever crazy expenses said car wants to throw at you. My mom can barely afford her own bills, and she refuses to let me go to get a job to even help out. Sweetie, you just worry about school and try to enjoy being a kid before you grow up. Trust me, it sucks most of the time. It was an annoying answer she gave me, but I guess it made some sense in a way. She was constantly overprotective of me like that. So, with no car and no job, the subway has become a close friend of mine. My ride was always the 7 train. It runs close to 24 hours a day. It was New York, so you can expect to see just about everything. The eccentric street musicians working for tips, the crazy homeless men with bugs in their beard, exotic food carts with kebabs that might actually be alive, and so on. It was weird, but still oddly normal to me. There have been a few accidents with the train, which often left everyone uneasy about stepping foot in there. But with every tragedy, eventually we all have to move on. We fix what was broken and try to be better the next day. Fortunately, I was never on board when anything bad happened, but it did take some convincing, have mom letting me go back on the trains. I did have to go to school and get around the city to run errands because God knows my mom didn't have the time. But now that they've opened up to the public again, everything seems normal. As I was just settling back into my routine, I stepped on the train, exhausted and just wanting to go home. That's when I met my someone. Well, I didn't technically meet her. Not yet anyway. From first glance, she seemed like the most normal person there, until glancing turned into looking over every 5 minutes or so. It got to a point where I had to keep snapping myself back to reality, but I just couldn't help it. She was gorgeous. She had freckles scattered across her skin like stars, and her hair was pure ginger, just barely touching her shoulders. She had the most elegant curls too, the type where it seemed like it would take hours to perfect. And her eyes, just the loveliest green hazel I've ever seen. Every time I'm on the train, which is almost every day, I would look over and there she was. And I don't exaggerate when I say every time. It doesn't matter if it was the weekend or early in the morning or even late at night. She is always there. I've seen her for months, always in the back. She always wears the same mint green hoodie. She looked outside the window, not even moving her head an inch away. She just stared into nothing. What's weird, I've never seen her get off on any stop, but I just assumed that she lived farther than me. Every single day she was there, and I wanted to say something, but I just couldn't. I never really had that much luck with girls. I just never seemed to be their type, and being rejected constantly didn't help boost my confidence at all. But I really felt this girl was special, even if I didn't even really know her, so I had to try. I had to get her to see that I existed. After school, I called my mom and asked if I could sleep over at my friend Todd's house for the weekend. He lives at the edge of Queens, so it wouldn't be that far of a trip. Plus, we could go to school together on Monday, and she wouldn't have to worry about dinner for the next few days. It took some convincing, but she finally caved. I told Todd that I'd be over at his place later. His parents were out of town, so I could show up whenever I wanted, but I had to take care of some things first. It wasn't technically a lie. I was just hiding the intent behind my actions. The time had come to put my plan in motion. I spent the day running errands, hanging out with a few friends, and mentally prepping myself on what to say and how to say it. Later, I stepped onto my normal train and looked over the near back, and as usual, she was there. Looking out the window as usual, she was just as gorgeous as ever. I intentionally skipped my stop and waited for her to get off first so I could somehow approach her. I figured that if I do get horribly rejected, at least I won't have an audience. But her stop never came. More people got on and off, but she didn't move a muscle. It's like she wasn't even listening for her destination. Like she was a perfectly sculpted statue. Embarrassingly, I waited 4 hours. I kid you not. And it was already pretty late to begin with. I waited to the point where I dozed off for a few times. I jolted up, hoping she didn't get off while I was unconscious. But she was still there. It was like her body refused her to move at all. I looked at the time and saw it was almost 2 a.m. I figured this was getting ridiculous and somehow talked myself into growing a pair and going up to her. At this point, there was only us and a few others on the train, all spread out. So I finally marched over and tapped her shoulder. Hi, I'm Isaac. I've seen you a couple times on this train. We must have the same commute. I just wanted to... I stopped myself because something was off by the way she was looking at me. She seemed surprised that I snapped her out of her trance. She began to study me. The more she looked, the more scared and confused her face became. I could see her trembling. You shouldn't be able to see me. What? What are you... All of a sudden, my breath started to condensate, making the vapor completely visible. I felt normal only a few seconds ago, but now my body treated it like it was under 20 degrees. Her eyes widened as she turned her gaze to something behind me. Oh God, no, no, no. I turned around to see a thin, lanky man in a black suit about 20 feet away with his back towards me. I thought he was just a normal man, until his body started to contort himself. His arms became thinner and thinner as they slowly reached the floor and started to coil up like old, rusty slinkies. His spine began to bend inward like he was folding in half but could never break. His neck followed suit, with his arms stretching beyond what is humanly possible, his skin growing paler and paler until it reached a disgusting shade of grey. As he was stretching every part of his limbs like an endless supply of rubber, I saw his head slowly spin around several times until it locked on me. His eyes began to grow past his face until they were as big as his forehead. Then he smiled maliciously, as if he was starving for something he'd been craving for a long time. His lips stretched out behind his cheeks and moved upwards past his head, exposing a horrific set of teeth. These teeth were not sharp and monstrous, quite the opposite actually. They were tiny but jagged and curved, like how a kid would look before they had their braces. But what made it unsettling was that there were several rows, probably about 6 or 7, all stacked up on top of each other. The man started to convulse and foam started to drip from his eyes, and I could hear my heart beating in my ears as he crept towards me. My legs kept me in place. I was too petrified to move. As he got closer, I could hear an odd melody. very faint but noticeable. He was humming. I don't know how, since his mouth was wide open, but he was humming. I almost accepted that this was how I die. Eaten alive, or having my soul sucked up by some otherworldly creature, just because I couldn't get a random girl out of my head for 5 minutes. I almost just let it happen. I saw no use in running, no way of escape, until my thoughts were interrupted. Now arriving, Woodhaven Boulevard. The train had reached its stop, but I still felt like it was impossible for my body to move. It was like my muscle and nerves cut off the communication from my brain, so they wouldn't be able to listen to my constant thoughts of running away. But I did have a little help. The girl grabbed my shirt and quickly pushed me toward the opening doors, with an angry but protective tone. "You need to get out of here, now!" But what about... Get out! She pushed me out the doors and I could barely catch my footing. I tripped and sat on the floor, watching the doors close and the train leaving with her and that thing on it. My breath was back to normal, but I was shaking. I had no idea what to say or do. I could barely fathom what just happened. So I just got up and walked to Todd's house. It was probably only about 30 minutes, but it felt like hours. I was exhausted not too long ago, but now I'm not even sure if I can fall asleep for a long time. I knocked on Todd's door and he looked like he had just rolled out of bed, but knowing him, he'd actually been up for hours. He had chips all over his shirt and he was holding a controller while his TV was blasting from a couple of rooms away. "Hey dude, where have you been? I've been waiting all day. I was thinking you bailed on me. Are you okay? You look high. Are you high? If so, whatever you're on, is there enough for me?" I didn't even realize how spaced out my face looked. To be honest, I could barely focus on whatever words come out of his mouth. What could I do? Tell him the truth? I don't even know what really happened, and even if I could somehow articulate it, he would definitely think I'm insane. "I'm not on anything, man. Can we just talk about it tomorrow? I just need some sleep, okay?" Todd's smile dropped as he could clearly see I was not in the mood for any games. "Yeah, sure man, come in. I'm getting pretty tired too." He patted my back as I got settled in his room. Sleeping over at Todd's was always nice. It's like a second home. The fridge was always stocked, it smelled like autumn all the time, and the beds were the most comfortable thing I ever laid on. Todd kept his bunk bed that he shared with his brother before he left for college, so I always took the top bunk. I laid down with 1,000 thoughts running through my head. What was that creature? Where did it come from? What did it want? Is that girl okay? What if she's dead? Did I just leave a girl to die when I could have done something? No, she pushed me out before I could even think. Was any of it actually real, or was I just hallucinating from fatigue? No, if it was real, then it's gotta show up on the news or something. As my head got used to the coolness of the pillow, I found myself drifting off. At least this will bring me some peace for the night. The next morning, I looked all around on the news to see if there was any reports about a dead girl or a monster on the same train at night, but nothing came up. It must have been a realistic dream or something. I'm more concerned about if she's okay, but there was really no way to find her. I knew nothing about her, where she lived, or even her name. I only knew what she looked like and where she always was. It was a huge leap of faith. I doubt she'd be anywhere near the train after what happened, but what else could I do? The next morning, Todd hounded me on why I knocked on his door looking like a disheveled mess. I obviously couldn't tell him anything until I had some answers, until I was sure it was real. I made my way back to the subway, not really knowing what to expect. I waited for what felt like eternity for the stupid train to arrive. I almost couldn't believe it when it finally stopped. I hesitated to step on, but then I remembered one of the biggest rules of New York. People are a type of traffic, and you don't stop in the middle of moving traffic. As the doors closed, I looked around towards the back, past dressy businessmen glued to their phones, cranky cat ladies who really need to find another hobby, and just straight up crackheads mumbling strange nothings. And there she was, in her same spot, in her same routine like the previous night never happens. She wasn't around many people, everyone was more up towards the front, which was actually preferable because I don't think I want anyone to overhear this insanity I've been dealing with. I carefully treaded over to her, not really having much thought on what to say, but figured it was worth a try anyway. I find myself next to her and can barely get my lips to move until... "If you want to talk to me, take out your phone and pretend you're calling someone. It's safer that way." She could tell I was looking for her. Normally, I would think that's a ridiculous idea, but given the situation and everything else I've seen so far, I felt it better to just play ball. So I followed through and reached into my pocket for my phone. I even pretended to punch in some numbers to make it look real. The 7 train normally goes above ground for a bit, so I had to wait to get service first. Soon we were both looking out the window at a pale and overcast sky, hearing the rain as it pattered against the window. After I held it up to my face for a few seconds, I took a deep breath and asked the first question that came to my mind. Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Her gaze shifted to me. Finally. She seemed a bit thrown off by what I said. "After what you saw, that's really your first question?" "Yes, that thing didn't hurt you, did it?" She let out a small chuckle. "Don't worry, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. I'm actually more worried about you." I nodded in agreement. I was pretty worried for myself too. "So, who are you? And what's with this train? And that monster? I've never seen anything like it." Her face tensed up. "You really want to know?" I looked directly into her green eyes. I wouldn't have come back if I didn't. I guess I owe you that much at least. Okay, to answer your questions in order, I'm Zoe. That's all I can remember. No last name, no memories, nobody looking for me. Just Zoe. That's all I have. As for the train, I can't leave. Literally, like I physically can't leave. The furthest thing I can remember was waking up here. I tried to talk to a random person to figure out where I was, but no answer. Like I wasn't even there. At first, I thought he was just being rude, just another jerk in the city. That was until I tried talking to another person, and then another, and another, and another, and so on. Then I tried to leave the train. Emphasis on tried. I got as far as the door and watched it open, but I couldn't even get my hand out, or much less my body. It was like a force field or like a gravitational pull sucking me back in. I was terrified, and I had nobody to help me. I tried waving my hands in people's faces, jumping around, yelling and screaming and crying, but it eventually clicked that nobody could see or hear me. I tried all day though, but nothing. All I could do was just watch outside the stupid window. I don't even know how long it's been. Could be months, years. I seriously have no clue. As for that creature you saw, he was one of the first to actually see me. I was crying for so long, stuck in this reality of my life, until I heard his voice. He only said one thing to me. "We're all dead, better get used to it." Then he disappeared into the darkness, humming a weird tune. We call him the Thin Man. He doesn't talk much, not to mention appears very rarely, and he only transforms into that when he senses a corporal. Sorry, what?
Alright, you don't know the stuff. A corporal, that's what we call a living who can't see us. Wasn't my choice for a name, but somehow it stuck.
Wait, hold on. You said we? There's more of you guys stuck here on the train, like ghosts or spirits or something? So we nodded.
Yeah, quite a few of us. I mean, we kind of just assume we're dead. What other explanation could there be? And now that you see us, we can all see you. We all know you're here.
Is that a bad thing?
If you're thinking about whether or not we can turn into that nightmare, don't worry. He's the only one who's proven to do it. My guess is that he did some things in his life that twisted his soul into something horrific. And now he takes pride in his new life.
Okay, wow, that's a lot to take in.
Zoe paused and thought for a second. You said your name was Isaac, right?
I nodded as I adjust my phone to my other ear in a more comfortable position. I was surprised you remembered my name with all that happened in that small moment.
Well, it was nice meeting you, Isaac. I'll be honest, I've only ever heard of corporals, but you're the first one to ever approach me. I've also heard of them being taken. You're lucky to be alive. If I'm being honest, I didn't think you'd come back at all. Figured the thin man would have scared the crap out of you.
Well, he definitely did, but it's okay. I was feeling pretty constipated these past few weeks, so I definitely needed that. So we laughed at my slightly childish joke. And it wasn't just a warm smile or even a chuckle. It was a genuine laugh, like it was something she hadn't experienced in years.
You know, it's been a while since I've talked with someone like this. Like, everything is normal. This was nice.
She leaned back against the window.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I should probably get back to, well, you know.
She gestured toward the window, seeming somewhat content with her eternity on this train. I thought for a second. Wait, maybe I can help you. Zoe focused back on me.
Help me? How? Did I not mention stuck on this train or...
I mean, if you're really a spirit stuck on this train, maybe you have some unfinished business.
Unfinished business?
Yeah, I mean, most ghosts in books and movie and stuff that are stuck in one place are usually stuck because of something that still needs to be done or discovered. If we figure it out, then maybe you can move on from this train and get on with the rest of your afterlife. Zoe seemed like a really nice girl. I figured it would be unfair for someone like her to be stuck in this plane of existence, forced to forever be bound to the cycle. She may not have any family, friends, or anyone at all who can help her, but she has me.
Okay, but on one condition. You gotta get on this route at least once a day and talk to me about anything to at least keep me sane.
Okay, sure, no problem.
I mean it, promise me.
I promise.
Okay, I believe you. Meet me here tomorrow night at 10. There's less people around at that time. I'll introduce you to the family.
Who exactly is the family?
You'll have to meet me to find out.
As the train came to a stop, I said my byes to Zoe, my mission clear. I may have been biased because I did really like her, but it's more than that. I was going to help her, whatever it takes. Apparently, I've had this gift to see people on a whole different existential plane, and it makes me wonder how many more I have unknowingly seen. They may have been shopping at the store, going for morning runs, playing at the playground. What other souls were stuck in the same spot, doing the same thing forever? Finishing those thoughts, the door slid open, greeting me with a swift breeze and pink and blue gradient sky. I only managed to take a few steps before I froze completely. My breath was visible again. I had goosebumps, like my skin was freezing. I heard a familiar humming. On the bench a few feet in front of me was that nightmare I was hoping to never see again. The same skinny, lanky man looking down to where I couldn't see his face, but I knew it was him. He was sitting there, waiting for me. It was the thin man. "Why don't you have a seat?" His voice was coarse, like someone constantly scratching his throat from the inside. I could only really see his smile, literally stretching around his face. He patted his bony fingers on the spot right next to him. I wasn't sure whether to listen to him or try to run, but I remembered what Zoe said. Since I see them, they can all see me. He knows my face, and he knows that I can see him. My lips were quivering, my goosebumps multiplying by the seconds. I never felt so cold in my life. I could have made a run for it, but he was on the outside of the train. Where could I run that he couldn't find me? But then again, there were few people around. Maybe he wouldn't attack me in the middle of the day. "Sit down, boy, or I'll rip your soul clean from your husk of a body." I thought to run, but before I could move my feet, I found myself obeying him. His finger reached out, and with a single flick towards him, I was shoved forward by an unseen force and onto the bench. I didn't want to, but I felt powerless against such a monster. I got lucky once, but that luck came to an end. I was trapped in the hands of this horrific thing until it decided to kill me or let me go. I hoped it was the latter, but I figured I'd at least hear what he has to say. If he tried anything, I would run as quickly as I could and fight until my dying breath, even if I did look crazy in front of everyone around me. "So, what exactly have you heard about me?" I gulped, trying not to sound as anxious as I felt. I was too afraid to even look at him, but he clearly wanted an answer that he knew I had. I know you're the thin man." "Yes, that is what they call me. They think they are so clever." "I also heard that you don't talk much." "The others, they are boring. They have no substance, no depth, not like me. The only thing they have is the train. But you, a corporal, you are fascinating. I've seen a few of you in my time, and almost each one met their end. Some are possessed, some are haunted till they die, others are taken. But not you, not yet." "And what's stopping you from doing that to me?" He let out a roaring laugh. It was almost human, but it was spliced with what sounded like metal scratching and ripping fabric. Following his expression of amusement, I saw him reach out his finger, and it grew longer and longer until it grazed my Adam's apple. "I'm bored. I've grown very tired of simply devouring. I want to watch you wiggle and squirm in my presence. I want to see you barely get away. I want you to fear me." I decided to be bold and ask another question. How come you can step outside the train?" He laughed again, apparently finding my thought process entertaining. "I can move freely around the station. My form is much stronger than any specter you see around here. They're confined because they are weak. They don't give in to what they could truly become." My head was spinning. If he could move my body with just the beckoning of his finger, there's no telling what else he could do if he really wanted. There could be nothing to stop him if he decided to rip my head clean off, or take over my body and use me as a meat puppet, or whatever his twisted mind could think of. "Truth is, Corporal, you amuse me. So many others around if they had the chance. But you came back. You actually came back. That was a nice trick, by the way, pretending you're on the phone. But I have seen you, and I know when you're talking to someone alive and someone who is not. Speaking of which, you wish to help this girl, whom you've just met? Now that is something I want to see you try. I will make you a deal, Corporal. You can help this girl and all others you meet on the train. I'll give you 1 week's time. I will not interfere.
I will not cause trouble. If you cannot save them, I will devour your soul. I'll use your body and throw you onto the tracks. I'll feed on your fear as you beg me for mercy or death or whichever you prefer. And if you try to run away...
He reached into his pocket and pulled out something black and rectangular. It had accents of gold. It looked like it had some type of writing on it. He handed it to me and my hands were shaking. Through the thick vapor of my cold breath, I read the object he gave me. It was an address plaque. My address plaque. The one that sat above my door for almost my whole life.
I may not be able to leave the station, but I have friends in other regions who know exactly where to find you.
I felt the breeze of the next train careening past us and the announcement on the next stop. The doors were filled with bustling crowds squeezing in and out of this public transportation system. The thin man stood up without a stumble in his step.
What perfect timing! This is where I get on. See you soon, and remember, I'll be watching.
He slid past the commuters and into the car, and I stared as the train took him away. He entered his domain, and he ruled over it all. I was just his plaything in a game, just to keep him entertained. I really did want to help Zoe, but now it seems like I have no choice.
Are you okay, sweetie? You barely touch your food.
I snapped out of my trance. I'd been zoned out for hours since yesterday. I honestly didn't remember walking through the door, going to bed, waking up, or even sitting down at the table. I looked down at my pot roast, then to my fingers unconsciously tipping at the plate, then back up to my mom. She honestly looked more confused than concerned, my face clearly showing that something was wrong. Sorry, Ma, I just don't have much of an appetite right now.
Alright then, but you know how I feel about wasting food around here.
I'll pack it for lunch tomorrow, promise. She got up from the table and started clearing the tables of her dishes and brought them back to the sink. I followed suit and brought my plate into the kitchen, setting it down on the counter as I looked through the cabinets for something to dump my leftovers in. Hey Ma, you ever wanted to do something for someone, but then started having doubts if you could actually do it?
That's oddly specific, but yes, I have. Why? Are you in trouble?
She lingered on that last words for a few seconds, leaning against the sink and staring at me like she was trying to interrogate a crime out of me. I finally found a small Tupperware container and began to scrape the rest of my dinner into it. I wanted to be honest, but not too honest. No, it's just... there's this girl. Her face immediately changed. It was like I flipped a switch that all moms have, in which they think the mere mention of a girl might as well mean you're planning on proposing. I immediately shut her down and told her I just met this girl. I told her I wanted to do a lot for her, but wasn't sure if I could be what she needed. She chuckled and told me she was hearing quite a familiar story.
When I met your father, I wanted to give him the world. Then he said, I love you too, and everything started to seem impossible. I doubted myself and my abilities, but if you're determined enough, it's something you just figure out as you go. Oh, time's already flying. I'll better leave for work.
My mom works as a nurse at the ICU, oftentimes at night and occasionally double shifts. She always tries to have dinner before she goes, just so we can spend some time together. I appreciate the efforts, considering we don't get many moments after this, especially after my dad died. It happened when I was 8, but it still feels like yesterday because she never stops talking about him.
I'll see you in the morning. Get some rest, okay?
I will. Good night, Mom. I wouldn't be keeping this promise. I knew if I even tried to get some shut-eye, I'd sleep through the night. And time is something I can't afford to waste. She walked out the front door, and as soon as I saw her car pull away, I went and drank almost 3 cups of coffee to try and stay awake. I got my bag and packed it with a journal to take notes, as well as snacks because who knows how long this would take. After all, I'm meeting the family tonight. I waited in the almost deserted station until I felt the breeze of the train sweeping past me. The doors opened and I stepped inside, looking at my watch. The time was 10:03. I looked up and around, and there she was, near the back of the car, staring out into the void. I'll be honest, Zoe's beauty still catches me off guard. I shuffled to her, hoping she's as glad to see me as I am her. My heart actually skips a beat when she looks at me with those bright green eyes. For a second, I forget every problem I've got. No mom overworking to make ends meet. No stress over school and friendships. No creature threatening my very life and soul. For a second, everything is okay.
Glad to see you made it.
Yeah, you too. She raised an eyebrow at my ignorant response. Of course she made it. She's stuck here. She can't leave the train, idiot. I almost start to stammer to correct my words, but she starts to chuckle.
Funny, real funny.
She didn't catch on. She thinks I was joking. I go along with it, somehow making her laugh for the second time. It's nice to not have to pretend I'm talking on the phone, since there's barely anyone on the train, and they're all in the front cars. We talk for a bit, swapping stories of funny stuff we saw during the day, and different things we'd like to do if we had the chance. It was actually really refreshing. After a bit, we were met with a small silence, which she broke fairly quickly.
So, are you ready?
I nodded. Zoe led me to the last car in the train, but stopped before we entered and looked at me nervously.
Now, just for a little context, everyone who's stuck on this train meets you around the same time every night. They'll probably ask you a bunch of questions, so be prepared for that. But they're nice, I promise.
As we walked through the door to the final car, I'm greeted with the sight of a small group of people sitting in a somewhat circle in the cul-de-sac of the seats. First, I saw a pale, middle-aged, plump man in a dark blue suit with a fedora to match it. He was compulsively flipping a weird-looking coin. Next was a woman with a light brown sweater and a pink skirt, probably around the same age as my mother. She was adorned with a large curly afro. Then there was a skinnier man wearing a leather jacket with more pockets and pins than I could count, but he was standing and holding the bar rather than sitting comfortably. He looked like he was in his late 20s at most. Finally, there was a little girl. She couldn't be older than 6. She had long brown hair and was wearing a super expensive looking violet parka. She was sitting in the center playing with a white horse toy with a purple tail. My heart broke a bit, wondering what could have happened to such an innocent child and how she could even fathom being stuck here. So he cleared a throat to get everyone's attention and the car went silent. Everyone turned their eyes to me, ironically like they've seen a ghost. The plump man stood up and addressed Zoe. "It's him?" Zoe nodded as he continued to stare at me with fascination. "I haven't seen any of your kind in so long. My name's Percy." The lady with the afro spoke next.
I'm Claire. It's nice to meet you, young man.
I looked at the guy with the leather jacket, expecting him to greet me. He looked me up without a care in his face, and after a few seconds he told me his name. Dex, short for... I don't really know. Percy pointed to the little girl.
That's Julia over there. Julia, come say hi to our new friend.
Julia slid off her seat and skipped towards me. Everyone looked kind of exhausted, just barely hanging on. But Julia had such a cheery nature to her.
Hiya, mister. Are you stuck on the train too?
Her question caught me off guard. I didn't want to rub being alive in her face, but I also didn't want to lie to her. No, I'm sorry.
What are you sorry for? I'd say you're pretty lucky.
She was right. Everyone here was bound to an eternity, roaming the same place over and over.
day after day. No memories, no answers, just an endless cycle in which all they had was a one-way mirror to the world. To see, but never to be seen. This doesn't look like hell, but it may just be the closest thing. And if I don't hurry, it's a fate I will soon share.
While you're here, you wanna play with me? Though I only got my one horsey, but we can share.
Sure, that'd be nice. I followed Julia back to her seat and sat next to her. Claire crossed her legs and bared a weak but genuine smile.
So glad you finally decided to join us again, Zoe.
Zoe chose not to say anything back, her gaze shifting to her feet. Percy, sitting in the seat adjacent from mine, gave me a friendly elbow. We meet here all the time, but you must be pretty special for her to come. Dex scoffed, catching us all in a bit of a surprise, considering he's been so quiet all this time. She probably thinks she's better than us or something. Newsflash, we're all stuck in the same boat. Actually, it's a train. I figured a joke could help lighten the mood. Percy bellowed at my corny joke, and Julia giggled quite a bit. I've even got a chuckle from Claire and Zoe, the latter giving me a face that said, "That's such a dumb joke, but I love anyway." The only one with zero reaction was Dax. Lighten up, Dax. If Zoe doesn't want to join us all the time, she doesn't have to. Percy shifted his focus onto me. I like you, kid. Now, down to business. Zoe says you're gonna help us? Everyone's ears perked up and they stared at me with a type of hope I've only seen in fiction. I felt like a lot of pressure was on me to fulfill this promise, for their sake and for mine. I told them everything, about meeting Zoe and about my encounter with the Thin Man. However, I did leave out the part of our deal. I'm not really sure why, it just felt disingenuous if I told the main motivation was to just save my own skin. Hours passed. I tried asking everyone questions about what happened in their lives, but just like Zoe, all they could remember were their names. With practically nothing to go on, I had no idea where to even start. My thoughts were soon interrupted by a large yawn coming from Julia.
I'm tired, mister. Could you take me to the front of the train?
The front?
Yeah, I can hear the engine way better up there. It helps me sleep better.
Okay, if you say so. I walked in front of her to lead the way, but she stopped and looked at me while rubbing her eye.
Actually, can you carry me?
I looked over at the others to see if it was okay with them, with which Percy gave me a reassuring nod. Don't worry, she'll be fine. We'll see you tomorrow, kids. I sighed with a soft smile as I stooped down for her to hop on my back. She handed me her horse toy so it wouldn't fall, so I stuffed it in my jacket pocket for safekeeping. I carried her all the way to the front of the car, Zoe walking right next to me. It's so late, it's deserted, not a single soul except for the two right by me. As I laid Julia on the comfiest seat that I could find, Zoe and me watched her as she drifted off. So, do you guys really need sleep here?
We don't need anything. We can do it, but it's never really necessary. Well, most of the time.
Zoe's smile faded as she brought her eyes to mine.
He's watching you, isn't he? The Thin Man.
She's figured me out. I wanted to play dumb, pretend that this is something 100% from my heart, but it's not. I've got 1 week to help you and everyone else, otherwise he's gonna devour my soul. I'm sorry, I should have said something. I really do want to help. Zoe rushed up to hug me. I could hear a slight trembling in her tone.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this.
I hugged her back, a part of me never wanting it to end. It's okay, we're gonna figure this out.
I'll stay with Julia, make sure she's good.
The speakers blasted as we've made the round trip back near my house.
I step out and once again make the trek home. I figured maybe the best way to help them move on from the purgatory that this train is to help them remember something. However, I felt hopeless, not even having a single clue to help me out. Stumbling into my room, I threw down my bag, took off my shoes and jacket, feeling defeated and exhausted. I was about to throw up in my hamper until I felt something with a small weight. My pockets were empty the whole night, except when No, it couldn't be. I dug through my pocket until I pulled it out. To my utter disbelief, there it was. Julia's white horse toy. I had grabbed something that she had with her in their spiritual realm and made it physical when I took it with me. I took it outside of the train. I sat at my desk holding Julia's horse toy. Not only can I see the spirits on the train, but I can also take their possessions into the physical world. Well, I had my doubts if it was actually physical or just something only I can see. Just then, my mom walked in.
Hey sweetie, just wanted to see if you're... Are you playing with a horse toy?
She could see it. She could actually see it. If this is really something I can do, this changes everything. This puts me one step closer to solving everyone's mysteries. Yeah, no. It's just one of my friend's little sister's toy. She asked me to hold on to it, and I forgot to give it back.
Huh, that actually looks very familiar.
She concentrated on the toy for a second, a sense of familiarity spreading across her face. It wasn't until a few seconds later as her face perked.
Yeah, I know this toy. Back in the 80s, there was this company that made a bunch of animal toys. The ones with the horses were the most popular. One year, they were declaring bankruptcy, but had a misprint on some of their horse toys during the final sales, making them pure white instead of pink. I wanted one so bad as a kid, but many got recalled, so it's a pretty rare find. Probably worth nothing now, but who knows. My back straightened as I spoke a bit too excitedly. Do you remember the name of the company by any chance? She raised an eyebrow, cracking half a smile. Why so curious?
Just wondering. I tried to shape the most inconspicuous smile possible on my face.
Okay then, yeah, I believe it was called Pony Co.
It was the dumbest name I've ever heard for a company, and I loved it. It was my first clue. I dove into my laptop and searched up everything I could find about this company. Just like Mom said, it was a toy company in the early 70s and 80s that made a bunch of animal toys, but their main focus was on the horse toys. It took some deep research, but as for the misprint, there were only 9 that ever had the mistake, but only one was able to publicly get out before it was recalled. That had to have been Julia's toy. It was won in an auction from her family, Dave and Carly Bloom. They were pretty respected aristocrats from a long line of inheritance. Funny thing is, these two were often trying to live like normal middle-class citizens, even being seen roaming about in public from time to time like they had no reputation. A very odd couple indeed, but I'm sure they had their reasons. They also kept a pretty private personal life, several articles where I saw the authors theorizing that they had a daughter. I'm not sure why they would hide such a thing. Who wouldn't want to know who'd be next in line in the will? So, they definitely bought the toy, but no concrete proof that it was for Julia. Now, there was no choice but go to the source. I looked into the family more. Turns out their lives took a dark turn. They were mugged in the subway late in the night, and the thug emptied his revolver into the couple. Carly died almost instantly, but Dave managed to survive. Still, according to the articles, there was no sign of a daughter. Dave managed to recover somewhat well physically, but he was mentally destroyed. After some digging, I found out he was spotted being transferred from hospital to hospital, until he was eventually settled into a hospice in the middle of Manhattan. If I could see him and get him to confirm that he had a daughter, I might have enough to help Julia remember something. I grabbed her horse toy and hopped on the first train there after school. I made some excuse that I was in a late night study group. I hated lying, but these are desperate times. God knows I was running out of time. It took a few transfers, but I got there. I even ended up on the 7th train and got to talk to Zoe for a bit. Before I left though, I wanted to try something. When it was time to get off, I grabbed her hand and tried to pull her out too. I figured if I could take objects out of the train and make them physical, I could probably do the same with her and maybe others too. Unfortunately, it was like trying to push something through a force field. She just couldn't get past the doors. We tried on almost every stop. I know I must have looked crazy, but in my city, everyone looks crazy at least a few times a week.
Isaac, people are staring at you.
I kept trying to push her out, my stubbornness shining all the way through. Hang on, if I can just...
Isaac, just stop. It's obviously not working.
I sighed in defeat and slumped down in the nearby seat. I still have the phone to my ear. It's not like it's gonna fool the thin man, but more so to avoid looking I'm schizophrenic, which doesn't seem too possible with what stunt I'd pulled. Sorry, I really thought that would work.
Don't beat yourself up, at least you tried.
Hopefully, Julia won't mind me using her toy for a bit.
Don't worry, we're keeping her entertained. She's pretending to be a princess and Percy's the dragon protecting her. Even Dex is playing along, and he never does anything.
We? So you've been seeing the others more? That's good.
Sometimes. I still prefer being alone. Well, mostly.
I could see her blush while looking at her feet. Although I wish these moments could have been under better circumstances, I'm glad I got to spend them with her.
You really think you'll find something at this hospice?
I hope so, but don't tell Julia anything yet. I want to be sure of what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, of course. You know, she talks about you, like, a lot.
Really? We've only met once.
Well, she thinks you're super nice and fun to be around. And I think she wants you to be the knight who saves her next time.
That warmed my heart. We've known each other for so little time, and yet she sees some good in me. It will be a bit bittersweet to say goodbye when this is over, but I'll have to think about that at a different time. When my stop had arrived, I moved along with the current of people squeezing out the doors. I turned back to Zoe, who was giving me a worried look.
Be careful, you never know who's watching.
I walked up the small step to the hospice, as odd as it made me feel. It looked fancy, yet very homely at the same time. It was a 3-story building, cream-colored all the way around. Once inside, I leaned over the front desk. The lady, clearly disillusioned from anything happening around her. Hello, I'm here to see Dave Bloom. The receptionist looked up at me with raised eyes, clearly wondering what someone like me wanted with such an old guy.
Your family?
Yes, well, actually a family friend. My great uncle wanted me to see how he was doing, and I haven't seen him since I was a toddler, so this is a pretty big moment for me. She sighed, handing me a clipboard with a bunch of names to sign in next to. It's a good thing that this woman was pretty uncaring, otherwise this might have been a bit harder.
She's in room 317, top floor. It's good you came when you did, he's not doing too well. I'm not sure if you noticed, but he was shot almost to the brink of death. By the time help arrived, he was crawling for his life, dragging his wife's body. They removed all of the bullets, but it seems the leftover lead is catching up to him. Not to mention his memory goes in and out. Just be gentle, kids.
I took the elevator up to the top, each sound reminding me I'm one step closer to getting some answers. If this guy can confirm Julia is his daughter, maybe I'll have something to jog her memory. I walked on the side of the hall, past each increasing number of the room until I got to 317. I took a breath and knocked on the door as I opened it, peeking in to slowly take in what I was seeing. The room was cozy. A dark green palette covered the walls, with a walnut brown accent coating the floors. All I could hear was the incessant beeping of the machine keeping this man alive. I've heard of life support and seen it in movies, but it's a much different feeling when it's real and right in front of you. Dave? Dave Bloom? The old man reclined in his bed and looked up at me, his face exhausted, and his eyes seemed to be in a place in which joy was lost decades ago.
Do I know you?
His voice was slow, with such a deep tone. It wasn't one of bitterness, but rather one of being content in disappointment. I'm a family friend.
Friends? Please, they were all fake. They were all wipers, just wanting to slip into my life and take everything. The only thing real was my family.
I sat down in the chair next to his bed, hunched over towards him to show him my full attention. Your family means a lot to you, don't they?
I never wanted that inheritance. I never wanted the riches. When you have it all, you realize how little it compares to true, unconditional love. She loved me. Before anything, she really loved me.
Your wife? Do you mean your wife, Dave?
Yes. What was her name? I can't. I don't.
Carly. Her name was Carly, right? Can you remember?
Yes, my sweet Carly. She became more beautiful every passing day. She paints, did you know that? She paints the most wonderful summer landscapes. She sang to me when I had night terrors or the nights I couldn't fall asleep at all. She has eyes so blue it will make the ocean jealous. God, I miss her. Do I know you?
No, but I know you, Dave. I just want to talk about your family. Can you tell me more about them?
My family? Yes, I had a family, didn't I?
Yes, you had a daughter, right? Do you remember her name? This was something he had to remember on his own. It's the only way to prove Julia was really his daughter and not some false memory I accidentally implanted.
Daughter? I had a daughter?
Yes, your daughter, Dave. So many people suspected you had a daughter, but never made it public. What was her name? You have to remember her name.
I don't... Was she... Do I know you?
He moved his eyes back up to the ceiling. It was honestly heartbreaking to see his memory flickering like that. All he wanted was his family, and he was stuck here in this mental prison. Just a constant loop where all he had were memories, constantly thrown back and forth from his grasp. Could he even remember Julia? Then I remembered her toy. I pulled out the small horse and held it out for Dave to see. This is her toy. You got it for her. She loved horses and you got it for her. I put the toy in his open hands. My breathing became less steady. Julia was counting on me, and this was my last chance to help her. You have to remember, Dave. This belongs to your daughter. Remember her name. Please, please remember. She needs you to remember. The silence was deafening, only the sound of heavy breathing filling the room. I hung my head in disappointment. Nothing was going to bring back his memory. I failed. I failed Julia. And if I can't help her, then I think I can't help Zoe or Claire, Dex or Percy. I failed myself. It's time I accepted that we're all doomed.
Julia...
I felt his hand close up around the toy. I looked up and saw a weak smile on his face. He said her name. He remembers. He shifted his focus from the toy back to me.
Julia is my daughter. My sweet, sweet princess. When she was born, I felt what love was all over again. My life was filled with deception and insincerity, but Carly and Julia were real. I didn't want my life to publicize her, put her in headlines, or have people judge her like they did me. So I hid and kept her a secret for years so she could have a normal life. I sat in an auction for 3 hours and got this toy because I knew that she would love it. I knew it would make her happy, and that's all I wanted more than anything in the world. That's when the people began to talk that I had a secret daughter to give the toy to. There were so many theories and articles, but I lied to them. I made excuse after excuse, said that I was getting a collectible item or bidding simply for the fun of it, but it was for her. Everything I did was for her, and I love her so much. Where is she? Where's my daughter?
I could see his heart rate speeding up through the monitor. I wanted to get help, but I was frozen in time. I don't know why, but I just let it happen. Maybe I'm a horrible person, but he was suffering. I could tell by the tears rolling down his face. He just wanted to be free. He just wanted his family and hated life being wrung out of him without them by the side. The constant beeping became faster as his breath slowed more than I ever seen on person.
Where is my daughter? Where is my wife? Will I see them soon?
His heart rate was pulsing like a jackhammer. I could barely keep myself from crumbling, but I managed to hold a somewhat comforting smile as I saw him close his eyes. Yes, I'm sure you'll see them soon.
That's wonderful. I can't wait.
His grip on the toy softened until it went limp and the beeping turned into one singular note. The entire Bloom family was officially wiped from this earth. I stepped into the hallway holding Julia's toy. I never met this man before today, but now I took a look inside his life and saw not an entrepreneur or an aristocrat, but a man, a father who loved his life and it was cruelly taken from him. But my job here was done. Dave has gotten his closure, and now I can use what I know to help Julia.
He's gone, isn't he?
I looked up from my hand holding the small horse toy to see a young blonde woman in a nurse outfit. She looked to be in her early 30s at the least. I wasn't sure how to tell her how I basically let a man die. I could have called for a nurse, or at least someone to help, but I did nothing. I let him flatline with barely a second thought. I'm sorry. I just didn't know what to do. By the time I processed what was happening, it seemed too late. I know I probably should have called, but I froze.
That's quite alright. He was bound to go at some point. These things just happen.
It was odd how nonchalant this woman was being. I know she's a nurse who's probably seen this 1,000 times, but I'd expect a little comforting conversation considering it only happened a few minutes ago. Not to mention, she wasn't even calling in a doctor or staff for assistance.
It's a shame. Truly a shame.
Yeah, he was a good man.
I wasn't talking about him. His soul was a waste. I meant, it's a shame on you. I mean, it's a shame you won't be able to make it back to the little girl on the train.
What? How did you? My breath ran cold. I could see it cover her face as I felt a million goosebumps spreading around my skin. Just like that, I was freezing. My entire body shook as I saw the woman's eyes stretch up to the top of her forehead. Her corneas began to foam as her jaw unhinged down to her chest, every inch of her mouth cracking to reveal several rows of tiny, jagged teeth. Her skin became baggy and grey, and her kneecaps twisted to opposite sides. Her sides bubbled and boiled until it sprouted 2 more grotesque arms, then 4, then 6. The transformation reminded me of the Thin Man, but this was something different entirely. This was one of his friends.
Didn't he mention, we all can see you?
For the first time, my feet moved before my body could even think. As I'm sprinting down the hall, every fiber in my being is screaming at me not to look back, but somehow I do it anyway. In my peripherals, I could see her jump perfectly to the ceiling and begin to crawl on it like an arachnid freak show. But unlike a spider, her movement was anything but slow. One claw after the other, she sped up to me, each limb propelling her closer to me. I drifted around the corner to the elevator, my ticket to freedom, until I felt a sharp breeze above my head. She launched herself from the ceiling to the elevator door before I could reach it. I almost slipped, trying to stop myself in my tracks, but that didn't stop me from locking eyes with her. She screamed towards me, but it sounded more like 100 high-pitched hisses layered with low-pitched laughter. I darted to the stairs, quickly realizing that maybe the elevator wouldn't have been a good idea, especially if I got stuck. I just knew I had to keep moving. I jumped from stair to stair with this monster right at the edge of grabbing me. Every time I turned the corner of the spiral steps, I saw her bounce from wall to wall, careening towards me. She was a relentless beast who couldn't help but pursue me. This was as frightening as a Thin Man, but at least it didn't chase me like this. I burst through the door to open the bottom floor, but couldn't stop myself from tripping over my own feet. I turned my body to see the once kind-looking nurse now turned monster peering under the doorframe, her eyes still dripping a disgusting foam and her face wearing a toothy grin. She was almost literally laughing her head off, reaching for me, until...
Kid, are you alright?
Was the lady at the front desk, seeing my obvious distress. I looked back at the door and the creature was gone, slipped away from my side without even a trace of her presence. I almost got taken by another one of those twisted souls, and I didn't know if it was just toying with me or if I was actually fast enough to evade it. I was so shook from the past few moments, I didn't even bother to dust myself off as I got on my feet.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
Yeah, something like that. By the way, you might want to check room 317. I'm not sure he's doing so well. I somehow seethed a chuckle at her ironically funny observation. However, I slung my bag over my shoulder and brushed past her, as I was still in no mood to stick around longer than I had to. On the connecting trains back, I had the headspace to really try and comprehend what I just saw. I had watched a man die slowly, recounting his life and his pain, but somehow still found beauty in it all. Not even a few moments later, I was stalked and chased by another corrupted soul. This terrified me. I had more eyes on me than I thought. They could be anywhere, and they could be capable of anything. I only had a few days left, and this just put me more on edge than I thought possible.
Hey, you okay? You look traumatized.
Zoe caught me off guard. I didn't even realize I stepped on the last train before home. I mean, she wasn't far off, so I told her everything. I've never seen anyone try to comfort me as much as she did, but what can you really say in a situation like this? She grabbed my hand and led me to the back car, saying that everyone was waiting for me. She was right. All the inhabitants seemed very happy to see me. All except Dex, who seemed indifferent as usual. Julia was the first to greet me with a hug.
Hiya, mister. You came back for us.
Yeah, I did. I said I would, and I'm here.
Now that you're here, you want to play Princess Tower with me?
Oh, I don't know.
Please, Zoe said you would.
I glanced back at Zoe, who responded with an embarrassed but guilty smile. I reluctantly agreed, not wanting to break her promise.
Yay, okay, so I'm the princess. Obviously, Mr. Percy's the dragon, Mrs. Claire's my lady waiting, and Dex is...
You can actually count me out of this one. Dex had his arms crossed staring at his feet. He clearly had enough of playing whatever games Julia wanted, but she walked up to him and put on the biggest pouty face I've ever seen on a child. Between the big eyes and the soft tone of her voice, he couldn't resist more than a few seconds. Dex had succumbed to his role of being the other dragon. As a knight, I had to ride through blistering winds and scorching deserts, climb to the highest room in the tallest tower, you know how it goes. After saving the princess and lady in waiting, I had to slay the twin dragons to protect them. When they laid the feet on the floor, I knew I had won, and what a nighty might I was. The car erupted with laughter. To a passerby, it would look like I'm laughing with myself. But even if so, I didn't care. Just then, my pocket began to glow. It was as if a flashlight was turned on inside my jacket, but inspecting closer, it was the horse toy emitting a strange glow. I kneeled down in front of Julia and held it out to her as she stared in disbelief.
My toy.
Yeah, I think this is supposed to help you now. You ready? She nodded as she placed her hand on the toy, both resting on my hand. Suddenly, the toy began to shine brighter and brighter until we couldn't see anything around us for a few seconds. It was like being hit with a flashbang. When our sight came back, we saw that the train had reached the next stop, except when the doors opened, everything was a void. Julia held out her hand and I took it. As everyone watched, we stepped to the edge of the doors, then outside of it. Both of us were outside of the train. As we both looked around the white void, I could hear Julia sniffling through a few tears.
I remember now.
The void faded from a bright white to a grayscale scene, like something out of a vintage movie. I saw a couple and their daughter. It was the Blooms, and they were taking a happy stroll through the subway. The pure joy on each face, it was a laugh that grew stronger with every day. The smiles on their face faded when a hooded man rushed up to them with a revolver. I couldn't hear what they were saying, it sounded like they were underwater, but I could tell how scared they were. The father seemed to be compliant until he tried to be a hero and reach for the gun. They struggled for a few seconds until the hooded man overpowered him and emptied the chamber into his family, excluding the daughter, who ran and grabbed his arm to stop him. Annoyed, the man shoved the girl off of him, causing her to stumble and fall onto the nearby tracks. If the fall didn't kill her, it would definitely be the oncoming train. The scene shifted back into the white void. Before I can even emphasize with the little girl, I see a couple running hand in hand towards us. They were calling out to her, the woman waving her free hand to get her attention. They stopped a few feet in front of us, and I could see them clearly now. It was Dave and Carly Bloom looking for their daughter. They both looked younger, especially Dave, matching their counterparts in Julia's memories. Their faces were filled with the same joy, longing for something they lost a long time ago, but now they found again. I handed Julia back her toy, urging her to go to her parents. She turned and gave me a hug.
I'm gonna miss you, mister. Thanks for saving me like the brave knight you are.
Take care, Julia. She ran forward as Dave scooped her up into a hug and the three embraced for a minute. Dave turned to me, the same tears running from his eyes from when he laid in the bed at the hospice. Thank you so much. The Bloom family walked away hand in hand, continuing their stroll into the void until they were nowhere to be seen. They were finally together again. I looked back to see the train still in view, and I rushed back as I didn't want to be left behind somehow. As I entered and the doors closed, we began moving as usual. Only a few more stops until my home. Everyone was bewildered at what we all have witnessed. Out of all of us though, Percy was breathing incredibly heavy. It's possible. It's actually possible to be free. How did you do it? Apparently, I can take whatever item you have on the train. Whatever means a lot to you, I guess, and I can take in the physical world. It's all powered through memories. That makes sense. None of us can remember our lives. Here, take my coin. I can never put this thing down, so it must be important. Percy stopped fiddling with his coin and dropped it in my hand. Claire was next to speak up. She reached around her neck and pulled off a hidden necklace with a single blue pearl in the center.
Hopefully this is something. I pray you can help me remember.
Dax reached into his leather jacket and pulled off a pin. It was the only one he had that had some words on it. The Dead Rabbit. It wasn't big, purple letters with a rabbit logo with flies surrounding it. This better work, or else. His tone sounded threatening, but his eyes looked desperate. Next was Zoe, hopefully holding the key to her freedom. But as she looked at us, her face was as dark as the day we first met.
I don't have anything.
We all looked at Zoe, a little taken aback by her unfavorable situation. Percy was the first to question her. What do you mean you don't have anything? Zoe snapped back. I mean, I don't have anything. Not like you guys. Nothing specific, nothing special, I guess. You gotta have something. I didn't realize how harsh my words were. I knew my soul was on the line, but that was still no reason to take it out on her. Unfortunately, my lips moved faster than my brain.
Sorry, I just don't, okay?
She raised her voice for the first time. She was always so sweet and gentle, it felt so real to hear it at that volume. Before I could think to apologize, she stormed off to a different car. I genuinely didn't know what to say or what to do until Percy patted my back. Go after her, kid. Don't worry about us. We'll be here when you get back. I took his advice and followed after Zoe, calling out to her. She kept walking from car to car near the front of the train, while clearly ignoring me. Zoe, hey, Zoe, come on. You know, you literally can't go any further than this. Please, can we talk? She sighed and slumped down in the seat next to her and motioned with her head in a way to ask me to sit next to her. I followed suit and we sat in silence for a few seconds. I figured I'd break the tension with an apology. Before I could say a word, she beat me to the punch.
I'm sorry, it's not your fault.
No, I shouldn't have gotten this upset. I mean, it's not your fault either. It's just, this whole thing is insane, and I don't know what to do.
Well, you haven't really had a plan since we started, and you already managed to free Julia. We'll figure something out for me, just worry about the others for now.
I turned and looked into her eyes. I will help you, I promise.
I hope so. Your life is on the line too.
She chuckled weakly. As her laugh faded, she kept her head straight.
You're a good person, Isaac. Don't forget that.
As I got off at my stop, I examined the objects handed to me by the rest of the group, this time trying to pay attention to any important details. From Percy, an old half-dollar coin with John F. Kennedy's face molded into the side, the numbers below claiming the year 1974. From Claire, a thin necklace with a small but beautiful looking blue pearl in the center. And from Dax, a black pin that said The Dead Rabbit in bold purple letters with minimalist logo of a rabbit with tiny flies surrounding it and his name right below it. After a bit of research, I found that the Dead Rabbit was a small bar/sports grill not far from one of the stops. A brass plaque on the bar door confirmed it in curly lettering. The bar looked nothing like I accepted. For a place called the Dark Rabbit, I imagined something darker. Maybe gothic skulls on the shelves and smoke curling from the cracks in the walls. But it was warm inside. Dim, yes, and old. Like the floorboards that stories would tell if they ever felt like creaking them out. But it wasn't creepy. It was tired. I stepped inside, clutching the name tag in my pocket. Dax, no last name. Just a name cracked and faded, barely clinging to the metal rectangle. It was all I had. That and the necklace tucked under my shirt. They were both on the train, both stuck, but they didn't know why. And I couldn't tell anyone the truth, especially not the man behind the bar. He looked like the kind of guy who could win a bar fight just by glaring. Late 40s, maybe early 50s, beard going grey in patches, arms crossed even while wiping down the same glass for the 5th time. He wore the same name tag, except the name on it was Charlie. I walked up to the bar and I cleared my throat. Hey, I was just passing through, and someone mentioned this place. He looked up without looking at me. Uh-huh. I pulled the name tag from my pocket and placed it gently on the counter. Found this a while ago, thought it looked familiar, was wondering if this guy used to work here. He picked it up slowly, turned it over in his hand. His face didn't change much, but I caught the subtle stiffening of his jaw. Where did you get this? I shrugged. Friend of a friend said it came from this bar. He didn't answer right away, just looked down at the tag like it had crawled out of his past and sat in the bar to haunt him. He stared at the tag a moment longer, jaw tightening. Dex, yeah, he worked here. A long time ago. He was good. Reliable. People liked him. Never said much. Just showed up one day like he belonged. I leaned casually on the counter, trying to seem harmless, curious, but not too curious. What has happened to him? He narrowed his eyes. Why are you asking? I don't know, I said carefully. Guess I'm into people's stories, especially the ones no one tells anymore. He stared at me as if weighing each word I said. Then, after a long beat, he muttered, "Come with me. I got a few things left of his in the office. Never could bring myself to throw 'em out." I followed him through a narrow hallway lined with crooked frames. We passed a few photos of different people standing in front of the bar, each from different years. What stopped me was the 90s frame. It was Dag's. The resemblance was uncanny, only his hair was a little shorter back then. I was definitely in the right place. The office was dim and cluttered and smelled like paper and whiskey. He pulled open a drawer in the desk and took out a small wooden box. Inside was a broken bottle opener, a photo, a few matchbooks, and a sketchbook with some worn pencils. "That's all that's left," he said. "Funny how lives can shrink down to little scraps like this." He ran a hand through his hair, then said, I stayed standing, not moving, not speaking, but I wasn't here to get his stuff. I needed to see what Dex meant to him. I asked, "So, what else did Dex do around here? Were you too close?" He didn't look up. "Something like that." I kept trying to pry for more information, but he just kept giving me vague answers. I was clearly getting nowhere until I noticed a picture on his desk that made my heart drop. It was him and a woman with a curly afro and wearing the same necklace with a blue pearl, the same one hidden around my neck. It was Claire. I shifted the conversation. "Who's that?" I pointed to the picture. "Don't worry about it." His speech was slow and methodical. I pressed on. "Is that your wife? You seem happy. Where's she now? Does she work here?" I didn't realize I was asking too many questions until he snapped at me. "That's none of your business. I don't know who you think you are, asking questions of people who don't concern you, but I will give you Dex things. Now get out of here." Then his eyes drifted somewhere else and stopped. "What's that?" My breath caught. I looked down. The edge of the necklace had slipped from under my shirt, the pearl just barely visible. Before I could hide it, he stood, walked around the desk, and stopped in front of me. "Where did you get that?" I hesitated. It was given to me. I just saw it in the picture. I didn't know it was hers." His face twisted with something sharp and aching. He reached out, not grabbing, just hovering, then took it gently off my neck. I didn't stop him. "This was Claire's, my wife." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. He held up the necklace, eyes distant from me now, like something was opening up inside him. "She wore it every day,
Even when things got bad between us, I think it reminded her of something or someone.
He glanced down at the name tag in his underhand.
They left together, her and Dax, one random night, no note, just gone. And I hated them for it, for a long time. Who knows where she is now? I never looked into it. I figured it would be better that way. He looked up at me, eyes tired. But I loved her more than I hated them. He held the necklace in one hand and the name tag in the other, like the way of the memory had finally found its balance. And in that moment, I felt it, like the air shifted and thickened. Something old, buried, was waking up. I didn't need to see it to know. The memories were flowing, the truth locking itself into place. Dex and Claire, what they were, what they ran from, what they meant to each other, what they left behind. Charlie sighed, long and hollow. He set the name tag gently back into the box, then the necklace beside it. I don't know why you're really here, kid, but thanks for asking in the first place. Seeing this again, I think I'm at peace now. I've accepted I might never see her again, but I do like the memories.
I nodded, my heart thudding. Some stories deserve to be remembered. He left me alone for a moment to grab something from another cabinet. I moved quickly and the necklace slipped back into my pocket like it never left. The weight of it was warmer now. By the time he turned back around, I was at the doorway, holding the box he gave me, expression neutral. I thanked him, and he nodded, and I walked out of the Dead Rabbit with both objects in my pocket and something far more important. Memory, wrapped around them like a pulse. Dax and Claire were waiting, and now, maybe, they were ready to be free. The air had thickened while I was inside, like the whole city was holding its breath. I tucked my jacket tight around me, fingers brushing the necklace in my pocket, the name tag resting against it. Still warm, still pulsing faintly with memory. I took a few steps down the street, keeping to the shadows. That's when I noticed him. A man, maybe mid-30s, leaning against a brick wall just outside the alley to the left. Too still, too quiet. A cigarette smoldered in his fingers, but he wasn't smoking me. He was just watching me.
Nice night,
he said. I didn't stop walking.
You've got something,
he called after me, his voice calm. It curdled my blood. I froze halfway down the block. You felt it, haven't you? That weight, that buzz under your skin. He pushed off the wall and started walking toward me, slow and steady. Memories that don't belong to you, echoes. I turned slightly, just enough to meet his eye, which now only showed two endless pits shrouded in darkness. My throat tightened. Do I know you? You should, he said, grinning. We've never met, but we're always watching, remember?
No, not again.
I could tell by the cold vapor of my breath that this was another monster sent by the Thin Man. I stepped back only to see his face begin to split. Not like a wound, but like a transformation, similar to the nurse in the hospice. The skin peeled sideways, his jaw cracking unnaturally wide, eyes bulged, teeth jagged, hands too many stretching from cheek to cheek. His fingers bent backwards, nails curling into claws. A black, tar-like substance dripped from his mouth, steaming where it hit the pavement. You shouldn't be meddling. They're meant to forget. I ran with what little energy I had. Behind me, I heard the thing drop onto all fours with a wet slap and begin to chase. The sound it made was somewhere between a snarl and a high-pitched laughter and bubbling.
I cut down an alley, then another, vaulting a trash bin, skidding around corners slick with puddles. The buildings blurred around me, but I knew where I was going. I had to make it to the train. It wasn't too far. I looked ahead to see a nearby basketball court. If I got through, I could probably make it. I threw the box over the fence and leaped onto it, climbing as fast as I could. But I wasn't fast enough. I felt the creature's claw stick into my leg, its tar dripping on my calf. I managed to pull away and tumble over the fence, landing on my back. When my vision came to, the monster was gone, though I could still hear his laugh in my head. I scraped up the contents of the box and made my way over to the station, limping to the back of the cars. Everyone was concerned, seeing what bad shape I was in. Zoe ran over and saw my leg was bleeding, but I assured her I'd be fine. It became clear that I had to tell them the whole truth about my deal with the Thin Man and how his friends were watching me. I showed them the box of Dex's stuff, and he froze when he saw the sketchbook. I was an artist. He never sounded so confused, yet sincere. He looked through it and found several drawings of Claire. That must have been how he showed his love. He stopped when he saw that there was one last empty page. He smiled and looked at Claire with stars in his eyes, gesturing that he'd like to draw her one more time. She stared at the same gaze, and she crossed her legs as he grabbed a warm pencil and got to work. The way that they looked at each other was unlike anything I'd ever seen. What seemed like an unjust affair really just looked like two people appreciating each other and their beauty. It really seemed like love. When he finished, I felt a glow from the necklace and the name tag in my pocket. It was warm. It felt like it was alive. The two looked at me in amazement. Claire was the first to speak. "Does that mean?" I nodded. "Yeah, are you ready?" Dex and Claire touched their respective objects, and I was once again hit with the same blinding light. Like Julia, we stepped out of the train into the white void. A black and white reel flickered to life around us, grainy, colorless, soundless, like watching someone else's dream. We stood there in the middle of their memory. Claire and Dex were there, younger and real. Laughing through the silence, her hair curled like waves around the cheeks. He looked lighter, like the world hadn't quite landed on her shoulders yet. They stood at a bench in a desolate, empty train station, arms around each other. No other people, no trains, just them, and two small paper cups. She lifted hers to her lips, and so did he. Then, just like that, they slid down onto the bench, leaning against each other as their bodies stilled, still smiling. The void faded back around us like fog unrolling. Dex's eyes were wide. Claire's hand had flown to her mouth. She whispered, "We died here." There was no drama in it, no scream, just quiet acceptance, like they had always known, deep, deep down. Dex looked at her. "We were running." Claire nodded. "But not away. We just wanted a way out." She grabbed Dex's hand. "I'm glad it was with you." They looked at me, really looked. "Thank you," Claire said softly, her voice warm, clear, and whole. Dex stepped forward and placed a name tag in my palm. I could hear his voice breaking. "I've been on a train for so long. Thanks, kid." Claire added the necklace, pressing it gently into my fingers. "It belongs to you now." As I headed back to the train, I turned back one last time to see them walking hand in hand, finally free. 3 down, 2 to go. "You really did it," said Zoe, flopping down in the seat across from me, copper curls bouncing around her shoulders. Her freckles lit up like constellations in the dim light of the train car. Beside her stood Percy,
always buttoned up, even in death, tie straight, coat folded nearly over one arm. He gave a small, respectful nod.
I've seen people try, Percy said. They don't usually get that far, let alone survive twice. At this rate, you'll empty the train before your time's up. Although, I think mine might be a bit more difficult. I offered a small smile, but I didn't feel like celebrating. Not yet. He's not going to like it, I said. Percy's expression darkened, so he sat up straighter. That was when the cold hit, the temperature dropping like a trapdoor under our feet, which only meant one thing. It rolled in like fog, thick and heavy, turning my breath to ice. As it curled over my mouth, the windows frosted over instantly. Zoe and Percy saw the shift in my face as I looked behind them. They turned, only to join my horror. It was the thin man, and he did not seem pleased.